Better? All right. So, how is that?
Oh, better. Yes.
Okay. What? Okay, y'all. We're here. We're on. Um, what were we about to say?
Okay, so you were saying where we are and how long we're going to be here and all that.
Let's take it from the top. So, we are in uh, the DCA, Reagan National, the DMV. Um, left Syracuse a few hours ago, a couple hours ago, but not even a couple hours actually. So left early, got here early, and now we are waiting. So the only downside of getting here early is that our wait's a little bit long. All right. So, but oh snap! I see Jasmine. Hey Jasmine, I meant to call you today. Got caught up with your grandma. You know how it is. Quick.
Michelle Moore Wilson and Quick Dog.
What's
Thanks
up,
for
quick
joining
dog?
us. Yeah.
Okay, good to see y'all, man. Welcome. Welcome into the Marriage Shop on the road in DCA, DMV. All the DMV people, all right, don't come to the airport, y'all. We won't be here that long, all right? By the time you park, we'll be gone. I
Yeah.
hope.
So we did a pop-up shop earlier, and you might want to catch that video on this page. We were talking about what you won't do or what you will do for your kids, and are there limits to that? And so we took one kind of take on that, but I think we can kind of continue to talk about that in another direction.
Oh,
You up for that?
I guess so. What you think?
Yeah, yeah. So earlier we were talking about how we flew to Syracuse to support Morgan, and so did our family members. So Sydney flew, your mom, her cousin. We all came, and that's kind of what our family does, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about as they were growing up, decisions that we made, and how people often credit us for how they're doing and the decisions that they're making. And so, what I thought about as we were flying in here is the other side of that, right? How far people go for their kids when their kids are in trouble. And I think that we can't talk about the one without talking about the other,
Yeah.
right? And so, this idea of if your kid gets arrested, are you jumping in the car immediately to run to bail them out, or to run to their side just to let them know that they're supported?
Well,
Mm-hmm.
while we talking about, I just think
Yeah.
it's important to say you can do everything that you think is the right thing to do,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like life is hard for your kids, right? It's hard for us or anyone to take all the credit or all the blame,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, are the lessons that are instilled in the environment they have, are those important? Yeah, but ultimately, you are like raising a person who is going to make decisions and make choices that you have no control over. So I think that's important to understand. So I mean, I think parents gotta slow down. Either way, whether it's taking credit for the good stuff or taking blame for the bad stuff,
Mm-hmm.
gotta slow down a little bit.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's good because the thing is, we've talked about how everything that you instill in your kids and everything that you share with them to try to
Mhm.
raise them in the way that you want them to go, really you've input all the way up to the age of 9, right? And it's not that they stop listening at the age of 9, but foundationally, everything that you've put in place really kind of solidifies at that point when they start to become independent thinkers and independent decision makers.
Yeah, and as during the last conversation, I want to just caution you against the 9, right? Like the line in the sand. I mean, it's in that window, but people, people that would grab that.
Okay.
It ain't no, it's not over if they 10, y'all. But yeah, what you're saying, I get it, right? It's all these lessons that you instill and the values you instill and the behavior you instill. By the time they begin to cross over, like out of elementary and begin to get into those middle school ages, I mean, it becomes very difficult to undo what's been done, right? So, yeah, good or bad. Yeah.
Good or bad. And so anyway, I started out by saying if you get a call that says that your child has been arrested or that they're in trouble, that maybe they're drunk somewhere and they need you to come pick them up, or they've been in a fight, or the things that you don't want to hear. Like we got a call one night at almost midnight, and our daughter was crying. And it's like you never want to get a call where you answer the phone and they're in tears, and I couldn't understand what she was saying. And it turns out that she was at a skating rink and she thought she had twisted or broken her ankle, but she was hysterical. And so the range of emotions that you go through in a situation like that, I mean, because it could be as bad as you could imagine, or it can, it could be as bad as you could imagine. And so sometimes our minds just kind of go crazy in those situations.
Yeah.
Anything to say about that?
Oh no, I didn't know you about that. I didn't know you were bringing it down. But they do. I mean, so and you get that call. I mean, there's a skating rink thing. There's a car accident thing,
Mm-hmm.
and somehow like the car accident call, I knew like as soon as the phone picked up,
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of knew because it's the call I dreaded, the one I knew might be coming, and so um, in short order, what I kind of stopped the meeting I was having, and I was on the road,
Mm-hmm.
and not that long.
Yeah, yeah. And so again, the unexpected phone calls is what we're talking about. The unexpected conversations. The conversation where you might get a gate change again. You might get a call that says, "I'm pregnant" or "She's pregnant."
Know some
You
people
don't
like
expect
that
to
now.
get that one. And the way that we examine ourselves and really kind of look at, well, is this what we instilled, is this what we expected, and all of those things. It's okay to go through that range of emotions, but at the end of the day, the question is how far, or what would you be willing to do, how far would you go for your children? And I think that many of us would say, Even if we're not happy about it, even if we're disappointed, even if we're angry, we're still going to go the extra mile. We're going to do whatever it takes to support them.
Huh.
At least that's the hope, right? So I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think it begs the question:
Mm-hmm.
would you go as far as not doing anything
Mm,
in order to like make situations what do they call them, a teachable moment?
yeah.
Like, in terms of accountability and responsibility and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, some people would go all out when they get the call that your kid has done something wrong.
Yeah.
Do you go all out or do you pull up?
Mm. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and when you say that, the first thing that comes to my mind is drug addiction, right? If you have a child that is addicted to drugs or alcohol or has some kind of vice, right? And it requires that because you love them, you have to cut them off. Extremely difficult decision to make, but would you be willing to go that far?
Yeah. That's a tough one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I kept on thinking my phone was vibrating.
Mm-hmm. No,
Right.
the whole building is
It's like
vibrating.
my button's vibrating because we're above a tunnel. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's like, like the decision to not do anything, to wait. And I say, and I probably, to not do anything is probably, going, it's a bit strong, but not come to the rescue
Mm-hmm.
in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
And Quick Dog says,
Mm-hmm.
my son went to jail for something I told him about concerning his car. I didn't get him out. It became a teachable moment.
Yeah, yeah.
Those are exactly the moments I'm talking about.
Right.
Because some people would do anything to make sure their kid doesn't, suffer
Yeah.
in any way.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes we meet adults who never had to be accountable for anything,
Mm-hmm.
and there's an impact there, right? So, um, yeah, I mean, but
Yeah.
it is very difficult to stand still, even with the simple stuff, to just stand still and not step in and come to the rescue.
Yeah, I mean,
And
simple stuff
sometimes,
like they didn't get up on time and they missed the bus. And so they're calling you because they don't have a way to get to school. What do you do in a situation like that? So, in contrast, so it could be as simple as missing the bus and needing you in that moment, or getting sick at school and needing you to come pick them up. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be a negative thing, but it requires you to leave work or leave home, or it infringes on your time because they made a bad decision.
and we have a lot of people in the marriage shop with kids like school age and
Mm-hmm.
college age. What about high school? When your kid doesn't come through on that assignment,
Mm-hmm.
and there's like it's very costly to them, do you step in and rescue then,
Yeah.
or do you pull back and allow the chips to fall where they may?
Yeah, so we had to do that with our daughter, who had been an A honor roll student her entire high school career. Was taking AP classes against our recommendations, um, and was failing and at risk for not graduating in her senior year. And we had to make a really hard decision to not allow her to play soccer until she applied herself in a different way to bring her grades up. That was really, really hard for us. And in a lot of ways, to this day, she still is angry with us for doing that. But we really, yes, we did show up at the school. Yes, we did call a meeting with the guidance counselor and her teacher and her that she was late to. We did a whole, but we had to make a hard decision in order for her to have a good outcome. And sometimes that's what's required. Making a hard decision, a difficult decision, something that maybe is painful to you, in order to save them or spare them, or them to have a good outcome.
Yep. And I'm sure impacted the team, their effectiveness and all that. And so there comes a time when you just got to do what you got to do, because it's not about the team at that point. It's about this individual and their ability to learn that there's consequences to not doing what you need to do.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and I
then, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say I expected that almost, I don't know, years ago. I guess I expected that at this point in life we kind of be beyond a lot of those lessons. But Wendy always about parenting adults.
Yep.
And it's like those lessons continue to come, like those choices and decision points continue to come. And we have choices to step in, not step in.
Yeah. Yeah, like
So,
you blew your rent money on clothes or whatever else. Do we now, step in and pay your rent for you so that you don't get evicted? I mean, what? What'd you say?
I
No?
said no.
Well, it just depends, right? But making decisions about what we would be willing to do, what we want our kids to know is that we will support them, and that no matter what, we love them. But we did not build the expectation that they could make all of the wrong decisions, do all of the wrong things, take all the wrong actions, and no matter what, there's going to be a safety net, right? And so we didn't do that. But the one thing that we wanted to make sure that they knew, and we still kind of remind them, is that no matter what they do, they can't do anything that would keep us from loving them.
Yeah, and support, as a lot of you know, support, that is the definition of it, the look of it, it looks a lot different maybe from what we're thinking and what they're thinking
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
And so the love has to be consistent, and the hope is that, down the road, they will understand when they're being supported. It's kind of like, I guess it's kind of like with our relationship with Jesus Christ, right? It's like there's times when it feels like you're going through and it's like, man, Lord, where are you and all that. But you begin to look back and say, man, you had me. I didn't see it that way at the time, but you always had me. And so that's my hope for our children.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and a lot of people say, well, they may not be appreciative, they may not understand, they may not really fully grasp everything that was sacrificed or provided, or even the ways that you support them while they're there. And it may not be until they have children of their own that it really becomes apparent to them. But I think that where we might go wrong, or what I would caution against, is having the expectation that they will, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of parenting is doing it and not expecting anything in return.
I would say all of it in some ways. I mean, they can't, we said this earlier when we went live, and it's like they can't appreciate it. They just can't. They don't know what it is to, like, struggle the way you struggle, have card catalog instead of the internet, like
Oh my goodness.
walk to school instead of getting dropped off at the pickup line. Like taking devices to class.
They can't.
There's no way for them to appreciate it. There's no way for them to appreciate like how you grew up and all those things that we say we're gonna kind of like rescue out from.
Yeah.
The things that we're gonna make sure they didn't have to endure because we had to endure. Like, we can't have it both ways, right? If they grew up the way you grew up, then there's maybe there's no growth there, right? And so from generation to generation, there's gonna be change, there's gonna be growth, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just difficult to be able to have them really truly appreciate until they have to go through some things.
That's true. So hey, Dynasty Blue and Rella and Betty Johnson and Sabrina Davis, thanks for joining us. If you're here for the first time, let us know so we can give you a shout out and make sure we welcome you appropriately. But this whole idea of getting it right, and you talk about even the little things, like even with toddlers, and really, really young kids, not doing what they're supposed to do. It's so easy to say, I'm going to put you in timeout, or I'm going to give you a little spanking, or I'm going to slap your hands, or I'm going to make you go take a nap so that you can reset. I mean, all of those are ways to kind of manage their behaviors. But again, this whole idea of really kind of, while discipline is necessary, that they always understand that love is ever present.
Yeah, so we're talking about, what was it? It was like, what won't you do for them?
And how far will you go?
how far would you go? So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a game. It's a game time, play by play decision.
Yeah.
You know, but I think it's always a good idea to go in with prayer. One, two, to really avoid having expectations that there will be appreciation, there will be acknowledgement, there will be all these things that we would love to get. Like, I want to know that you get it. And sometimes you don't get that. That seed that germinate for many, many years sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's just
And
start here, pop up like,
yeah, and even this idea that maybe you didn't get it right with the first one, so you try to get it right second one, or maybe you didn't get it right with your kids, so you're trying to get it right or make things right with um, your grandkids, for example. And it's hey, just because you're parents doesn't mean that you know how to parent. It's just because you're married doesn't mean that you automatically know how to be married. It's a
right.
process, and we're always learning. And hey, just in case you haven't had children yet and you didn't know this, each one is their own unique person. So there are things about them that are maybe like dad or like the mom, but then there's this stuff that's just uniquely theirs that you may not be prepared for.
Allow me to translate. Everything you learned on kid number one, everything you know about your spouse's behavior, everything you know about the family, all that stuff, toss it. Because this person pulls all those things and they create their own little special brew of who they are.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and thank you, Quick, for putting that in there. Psalm 46:1. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. And as we strive to be more like Jesus, more Christ-like in what we say and how we live and what we do, is this whole idea of yes, there's what we say, but then there's the example that we set, right? What do our actions say about who we are and what we're willing to do? And what do our kids believe? And maybe that's a conversation you could have this week. Do they believe or do they know that no matter what happens, you're going to be there? And if you're not, running to the jail or running to rehab or wherever it is that you have to go, that you are constantly praying for them, right? So being an ever-present help as a parent could also mean that you never stop praying for them from before they're born, the time before they're born, throughout their entire lives. I mean, it's something that we said, your babies and your kids are always your kids, even if they're 68 years old.
I guess so. I
It is
guess
true.
so. But and so yeah, I think it's really important.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also, if you're gonna be that for your kids, it's really important to be on the same sheet of music. This can be difficult to do. I see Justice Smith is here. What's up,
Yeah,
Justice?
yeah, Nakia Hopkins Grace,
Hey,
hey.
hey. And so,
Mm-hmm.
and if you have kids like the age of Justice's kids, like there's this, you were talking about kind of this, well, that period of shaping,
Mm-hmm.
when they're in that elementary school range,
Mm-hmm.
and then they come,
School age, preschool, and infant is
yeah,
what they had.
and then so then they come out of that, and as they begin to get into that puberty stage, that going into the teens, all of a sudden the answers just start flowing. They got
Mm-hmm.
them. They have them, and so that becomes a very challenging time. Um, and we only know personally what we know, personally, right? And so what we can say is that's what I would call it. There is a storm during that time. It
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
But there's also calm at the end of that storm. Had a very special moment today with Morgan. I won't share just because it was a special moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it was into the car, we're about to leave, go to the airport, and she said, hey, gonna talk to you for a second. And so we stood on the sidewalk and had a conversation I could have never dreamed that we would have years ago. And I'm like, wow, like something got in there, right? Something happened, and something's growing.
Mm-hmm.
Sydney flew out of town yesterday,
Yeah.
and we had a little, stormy moment in town, but we had another special moment before she walked into the airport, right?
Mm-hmm.
Really quick exchange that we had, and it's like there's a time when that exchange was not possible, particularly after tension.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I was going to say they come back. I don't know if they come back. I don't know if it's we meet them where they are. I'm not really sure
Mm-hmm.
what to call it, but there should be a process of everybody continuing to grow and evolve and to change, even us as
Even
parents.
us, right? And
Yeah.
we always talk about grace and space.
Mhm.
And I think that that is so important even for our kids. It took us a long time to really recognize that they were constantly going. They were in school all day, then they did whatever activity. And it was like, why are you so tired? Why are you saying you're tired? And why can't you
Mhm.
get up? And all those things. And I think they both just kind of said, hey, sometimes we just need to rest and do nothing. Um, and it's like
I
from our,
wasn't. I wasn't
yeah,
trying to hear that.
yeah, but because from our perspective, it was like, what are you complaining about?
Mhm.
And why can't you keep your room clean? You know, and we were making a big deal about things that really weren't a big deal. And so I think it was an episode of Blackish where
Mhm.
and they were kind of going in, and it was like if he doesn't do these things, he's going to end up blind and on the street
Yes.
begging. And it was such an exaggeration of what will happen to them. But the truth is, if your kids don't clean their room and they don't clean up after themselves and they don't eat all their food and they don't always listen to what you tell them,
They're gonna
and
struggle.
they sometimes lie, they sometimes cheat, and they sometimes fight,
They make mistakes.
they still will turn out to be faithful, loving adults,
So
right?
basically, what you're saying is your kids might mess around and do the exact same thing that you did.
Yeah, or the opposite of what you say. And you have to have an assurance in what God says, right? Because they're
Mhm.
not ours anyway.
Yeah.
Just like anything that we're given, we have them for a short time and we have a responsibility to do what we've been called to do for them, but they're not ours for their lives. And as they become adults, they are independent, truly independent decision makers, and we don't get to control them at that point. And some of us try to control our kids when they're adults as if they were still 4, 5, and 6 years old. We get frustrated, we fight, we kick, we scream, we hang up on them. We do all these things to try to correct their behavior when in fact what we need to perhaps consider is that we will win them with our love, that we can win them with acceptance, that we can win them with understanding, that we can win them with patience, that we can win them with grace. Because sometimes it feels like everybody's against you. And wouldn't it be beautiful if the one thing that you knew for sure is that your parents would always be on your side? And so this is all making an assumption that the parents are good people in the first place, right? And even if your parents weren't good to you or weren't available or maybe were even absent in your life, you may have learned how you want to be. And then when you have children, you commit yourself to being different than how your parents were with you. And it's the same with them. But we don't get to control the outcome. We just have to trust and have faith that God controls the outcome. And so the more we try to control and put our hands on it and keep and shape and do things the way that we believe it should happen, probably the more turbulence we will have because things are shaped based on how God believes they need to be shaped. And sometimes that includes adversity. Sometimes it includes a downfall. Sometimes it includes a little pain or heartache. All of those things shape and them into who they are to become ultimately. And if we were allowed to protect them, coddle them, baby them their entire lives, they would be good for nothing.
That's an interesting perspective because I was thinking about um, the things that I pray for as far as the kids go.
Hmm.
And I always pray that they are connected and they're able to hear God and that, you know, that we have a relationship where we can connect and talk. I've
Hmm.
never, I'm trying to think about this, I've never prayed that they don't have heartache.
Mm.
And so, because I think that would be a foolish thing to pray because life is kind of filled with difficulty. We know that's going to be the case. And so I think that my real prayer is that when that difficulty comes, that they lean to God and that they call us.
Yeah,
I,
that's good.
like allow us to just kind of walk you through this. And
Hmm.
So yeah, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
and walk with you, right?
Yeah.
And, and so I think it was Shannon that had a question about phones and what they see on phones, and even that the struggle of you don't want your kids to have phones till they're 16 or 18, and kind of shielding them from some things. We used their phones, we use movies, we use television, we use things, the news, things that were happening in the world as a way in to have a conversation, to share our opinions and perspectives. When we had open conversations about decisions that their friends were making, we used those as teachable moments as well. And so when something would happen, yes, we would share our opinion on it, but more than sharing our opinion, we would then really kind of open it up and invite theirs, right? And so, a lot of what we see on TV now really, I won't say that it advocates, but a lot of LGBTQ, same-sex couples and same-sex marriages are everywhere, in media and on television. And so, our children grew up in environments where they had transgender friends, they had friends that are LGBTQ plus, and so there was a time when they believed that that we were the worst of the worst. And according to our children, if you had asked them during this time in their formative teenage years, we were racist, homophobic, judgmental, evil people.
Really
and
weird.
yeah,
But
they had some very strong opinions about that. And it turns out that now that they're older and they've experienced more things, people, they have a better understanding of being tolerant and being open to other people's opinions because they don't want to be judged. They're slower to judge. That had to happen on its own.
and that was hard. Um, you know, I mean, in some ways, still a little bit challenging, but nowhere near what it was, right? And it's funny because life did really kind of iron some of those things out as they began to be exposed more to what real life is.
Yeah.
Um, and but you find yourself wanting to force the issue and make the point and help make them understand and all that stuff. It all, to me, it all kind of comes back to how you love and like and how you live your life, right? Because ultimately you can make people can make all kind of judgments about you, but the life you live is going to speak for you,
Yeah, that's
right?
good.
And so our children see that, and they I always find it interesting now meeting people, and it's like, yo, I heard so much about you all. I'm like, really? They've been talking about us.
Right.
So
It is
that's,
funny.
That's funny.
Yeah, and I take every opportunity to hug our children's friends and talk to them as if there are no other loving adults in their lives. I hug them like I'm their mama. I talk to them and invite them into conversation without judgment. And our children see that, and for them, it feels like the norm. For their friends, not so much. And so more of our kids' friends follow us and me on Instagram
That's
than I
weird.
expected. It is.
Morgan was like, yeah, such and such said you didn't follow her back on Instagram. I'm like, what?
We had to go in. It was beautiful though to be able to be in this space with her friends this weekend. It happened to be her friends this weekend, and they were, you know, not like us. I'll just say that. And we met them with love. We met them with open arms. We met them with no judgment, because that is who we believe we should be. And maybe we are the only representation that they have of Christ in their lives. Is that?
Wow, yeah. It's that important. I hadn't even thought about that like in that way until this moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that important. I guess you can't mess with her break. But anyway, I mean, I'm like, what you want to be quiet for? But yeah, wow, it's that important. And I think that it's interesting because they're like, it's almost like they're seeking that
It seems like
in
it.
some cases, right? Just really seeking that love, that approval, that acceptance, right? So, yeah, that's cool. And I'm like, hey y'all, and people like, you're so glad to meet you. We couldn't wait. And I'm like, really? Why?
Yeah, heard so much about you. And it's
Yes.
cool. It's cool to be in that place. But the other part is following their lead, right? Because sometimes, and I'm guilty of overstepping and inserting myself into places where I'm not invited. Because I believe that I can help and support in ways that would be helpful and supportive. And the truth is, I had to stop and listen. And so while it was really hard for me not to push the issue, I kept dropping some hints over the last couple of days. I accepted our child's decision on something that she believed was important. And I had no choice but to accept it. I mean, I
Yeah.
could have really, really pushed the issue. I could
So
have
glad
gone behind
you
her
didn't
back,
push
but
the
I
issue.
didn't. And I'm growing, so we don't always get it right.
No, we do not.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, we're a work in progress. We do
We
continue
are.
to work, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
and try not to show up as having all the answers. And so I'm discovering that as I try to create that space and to try not to fill it up with all the answers, then the relationship seems to get better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And Shelly, it's a surprise to see you here tonight. We didn't expect to be here. We actually flew in a little early to DC. So it gave us a few minutes before we had to get on our next flight. So we wanted to drop in. So we did do a pop-up marriage shop a few hours ago, and that video is on here as well. So that's really kind of part one of this conversation. And this would be part two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I'm good.
You think you're good? I think we're
Yeah.
good because we actually need to find out where our gate just
Yeah,
changed
you
to.
had a little gate change. So but before we leave here, we got to get something like, we're in DC. I need to pick up something that is exclusively DC.
Yeah. And in case you guys
It's
didn't
hard.
know, tomorrow is Mike's birthday. And so last year we were all over the place. Yeah, but tomorrow he will be 51. And so we're just thanking God for another year. I'm thanking God personally for another year of his life, another year with him, and everything that he is to everyone that he knows. And so we appreciate you guys. We wanted to just drop in real quick. If you think somebody could benefit from this conversation, make sure you tag them and drag them in. And you see that little message pinned at the bottom that says you can support us with stars. And we appreciate you, Brennan Francois, for sending us some stars tonight.
Brennan Francois?
We're scooping up all of that little change, and we are paying our restream bill to be able to go
That's part of
live just like this. So it really does go into our efforts to be able to support you, to support marriages, and to really kind of share God's love with the world.
Yeah, and hey, thank you, Quick Dog, for that happy birthday. Happy birthday to Eddie Reeves. His birthday is today down in Dallas. Yeah, so 61 years old, I believe. So he is like 10 years and a day my senior. But hey, happy birthday to Eddie. All them February babies got to stick together, am I right? Hey,
Yeah,
February,
yeah.
rise up.
It's the whole trip.
It is.
All right, so you gonna pray us out?
Yes. All right. You ready?
Yep.
All right. Heavenly Father, we just come tonight just thanking you for being God.
Bless
Thanking you for blessing us and my family. And we just ask you just bless everyone here. Bless their homes, their families, their marriages. God, help us to love each other and to be a model and reflection of how you love us. So we thank you, love you, pray these and all blessings in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. So we'll be in, I was about to say Saratoga Springs. We're going to be in Sun River, Oregon, coming up this week on Thursday for the Weekend to Remember. We're really looking forward to it. So please keep us in your prayers as we continue to travel and share God's word with married couples.
And yo, I have no idea exactly where Sun River is. I haven't even looked it up on a map, but I think it's out there, y'all. That's all I'm saying. So Y'all pray for us.
It's still in the U.S.
Yeah, it is in the U.S. apparently.
It's gonna be cold again. Yep. All right. Good
family.
night, y'all.
Love y'all. No music tonight. You know what I mean? We got no soundboard. We got no producer. We got nothing. Just us. All right. So,
Yeah.
look, love y'all. See you later. Peace.
Bye.